Welcome into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, the Hawks get it done. For now, this is how the Hawks have to win and what I think that the Falcons are going to do coming up in the draft here over the weekend. It's all next. It's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Hittin Hard is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And we ask you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast from. You can get the latest episodes of Hittin Hard as soon as they become available. Then follow me on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. Well, really, the Hawks did something that we didn't really think that they could do. And look, again, unless you're a blind homer, the Hawks had a lot going into this game where they were certainly the underdogs going on the road. Celtics favored by 13. So Vegas thought that this was going to be a disparate game. 13-point underdog. Hawks go up to Boston, and they find a way to get it done. Now they're down 3-2 with a game coming up tomorrow night from State Farm Arena. And Janet Jackson and Ludacris probably aren't real happy. But anyway, look, a couple of things about this game as we kind of look at it. So Trae was magnificent. 14 for 33 from the field, 5 of 13. The shooting percentages don't belie or tell the story of what he actually did. Obviously, he hit the big 30-foot-plus shot to win the game, to seal the victory for the Hawks. He scored the final 14 points of the game for the Atlanta Hawks. In fact, he outscored the Boston Celtics 14-6 down the stretch. Interesting stat. Trae Young scored the final 14 points in Atlanta Game 5 win over Boston. Since the 1998 playoffs, he is only the 5th player to score his team's final 14 points in a playoff game. Another fun stat that came out of this game. Trae Young's go-ahead was the second instance of a player making a 30-foot-plus shot as the go-ahead shot in the final 5 seconds or the fourth quarter of the fourth quarter, I should say, or overtime in the last 25 years. The only other person in the last 25 years that has hit a 30-plus foot go-ahead shot in the final 5 seconds or overtime was Dame Lillard with a 36-footer to eliminate the OKC Thunder back in Game 5 of Round 1 in 2019. So a lot of fun stats coming out of this game. I thought Bogey played really well. Obviously, he was in for DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter suffering the suspension. Thought Bogey did a really good job. 18 points, again, 6 for 9 shooting, 3 of 6 from the three, hit three free throws, 18 points, 6 boards, 5 assists. And actually, believe it or not, he was the highest plus-minus guy for the Atlanta Hawks. So he finished at a plus 11. DeAndre Hunter was second with a plus 7. And then plus 8. He had the highest plus-minus of anybody on the team. But they kept scratching, fighting, clawing. They were down 13 at one point. They were down late, 106-96 in the game. John Collins hit a basket to get it to, I think it was 111-105, and Trae Young scored the final 14 points of the game. He outscored him 14-6 against the Celtics. So they never quit. They never gave up on this thing, and we were kind of looking at that, okay, they're down 3-1 in the series. This would be an easy game to allow to get away from the Atlanta Hawks. And maybe under certain other regimes or at certain other times, that would have happened for the Hawks. But not tonight. And hopefully, and this is something that Quin Snyder can look to build on, hopefully that this is a sign of things to come. Hopefully that this is what the future is going to hold. Because one of the things Quin Snyder has to do is change the mentality. Even if it's perceived, even if it's not necessarily true, it is perceived that this team doesn't care about the regular season or what have you. That mentality has to change. They have to find a way to make these guys believe that the regular season is important and seeding is important. It would be so much easier for the Hawks if you weren't 8, 9 on the road early, playing rounds on the road to start a series. That would make life so much easier for the Atlanta Hawks. But alas, the last 2 years, they've been kind of stuck in this muck and mire position of being a 500 or just below team. And hence, they're the 8 seed this year, 9 seed last year. You got to win 1 or 2 play-in games. Then you're a big underdog against one of the top teams in your conference and having to fight scratch and claw for every victory. So I give the Hawks a lot of credit for the fact that they went up to Boston. They did what probably nobody was going to think that they could do. And I saw another stat, too, that said since 1990, so that's 32 years now, or sorry, 33 years. Since 1990, anytime the Celtics were a double-digit favorite in the playoffs, they had won every single game up until last night. So kudos to the Hawks. Kudos to Quin Snyder, potentially changing up the mindset of this team. Let's hope that this carries over in the regular season. Let's hope that this carries over into next year. By the way, Collins, 9 of 18, 4 of 9 from 3. Hit a couple of big threes early, hit a couple of big threes a little bit later, kind of waffled in between there, but thought he played really well. 22 points, couple of boards, an assist, and a steal for John Collins. Now, we're going to talk in just a second here about the idea of it's still a certain way that they have to win, but you got some contributions on a night where really, too, you didn't get much off your bench. You got 24 points off your bench. They rebounded the basketball really well off the bench. They had 11 boards, and you by and large just played 3 guys because of DeJounte Murray being out. You played Aaron Holiday 4 minutes. Okay, so I'm not even going to count him, but Johnson with 14 minutes, Sadiq Bey with 24 minutes, Okongwu with 27 minutes, obviously as Bogey had to be in the starting lineup. So your bench was short. You only scored 24 points, but you grabbed 11 rebounds, so they were good on that end of it. But you won, and without having to get 50-something points out of your bench. And I thought DeAndre Hunter was one of the guys that did a good job on Tatum last night, holding him 8 to 20, 8 of 21 from the field, 1 of 10 from 3. He struggled. He had 19 points, but he was a -9 when he was on the court. So good effort all the way around for what this Hawks team certainly has the capability of being. And this is why having a summer with Quin Snyder, getting this roster right, whether Quin Snyder is going to have a huge say or a little bit of say in the roster and the personnel and all this kind of stuff, it certainly does make you excited that, okay, maybe we're turning the corner. I mean, we thought we had this thing kind of figured out after the Eastern Conference Finals run, but again, things have to kind of reset and such. But hopefully with Quin Snyder at the helm, that the mindset now becomes where we focus in on the regular season. We come out of the gate playing strong, getting a good seed, making our life a lot easier. While this series is fun, I mean, it's certainly hard for the Atlanta Hawks, and it's certainly stressful for, again, where their position is in the community, that we have to go through all of these different layers, all of these play-in games and all this other kind of stuff just to be able to get to a point where now we're looking at game 6 in the Eastern Conference, first round, and have a chance to maybe force a game 7. By the way, I do think that they are going to catch the Celtics on their heels tomorrow night. I think that was a blow that the Celtics won't easily recover from. The idea of, okay, we punched you in the mouth on your home floor, and we responded, and we found a way to win. Because the Celtics weren't thinking about coming back home. Celtics were focused in on, okay, we're going to get this thing done and wrap this series up, and we're going to advance, and then, we're on to greener pastures. Hawks said, Hawks found a way to get it done last night, 119-117 behind such a strong performance from Trae Young. All right, let's talk about our friends over at Built Bar. Listen, you're looking for those low-calorie, low-sugar, low-carb, high-protein snacks, right? whether you go the traditional route of just your regular protein bars or the protein-infused marshmallow puffs, Built Bar has got you covered. So you can go to Built.com, check out their newest flavors. I believe that it was peanut butter and jelly that they introduced just the other day. They've always got a new flavor coming out every month. And 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, whopping 17 grams of proteins, whether it's the protein-infused marshmallow puffs, whether it's your traditional protein bar. You can get a combination of them either way, but obviously good, healthy snacks for you. And now, besides going to Built.com, you can head to the pharmacy section of Walmart and grab your box of Built Bars. Or you can also go to Sam's Club and pick up your Built Bars. So whether you go the brick and mortar route, Walmart, Sam's Club, you want to go that direction, or you want to just go online and order your Built Bars, either way, head to Built.com or Walmart or Sam's Club, pick up your low-calorie, low-sugar, low-carb, but high-protein snacks. Built Bar has got you covered. So I tried to explain this about a week or so ago to folks, and this is maybe not the way it needs to be. Maybe it's not what's best for the future and all this kind of stuff, right? But for right now, until I see differently, this Hawks team succeeds in one way and one way only. And that is Trae Young is the alpha male and the dominant force on the court. This is not about getting other people involved and, being, off the ball or being non-ball dominant and all. That's all mishgas. What did we talk about last week? The Hawks are now 7-4 when he scores 30 points in a playoff game. They're 5-10 when he doesn't. Which one of those ones do you want? Do you want the 30 plus or the 5-10 when he doesn't? I know which one I want. I know that's an easy call. But when he is the alpha male and he's taking over the game and he's a ball dominant player, and maybe some of that was without Murray, obviously, because look, Murray's going to be back come game 6. And maybe he goes back to that same kind of role. But these last 3 games have shown you that the way the Hawks win is for him to be that alpha male, for him to be the ball dominant player that he is, and take control of games, especially in the fourth quarter. That wasn't exactly the best shot that he hit to seal the victory for the Hawks in that game, 35 feet away or whatever like that. But when he gets in that groove and that rhythm, he gets it done. And this is not, DeAndre Hunter. Okay, DeAndre Hunter, when he scores 25 points the last 2 years, the Hawks in the regular season and playoffs are 3-5. 3-5. Again, 5-10, 3-5. Which one do you want? Do you want 7-4? So this may not be what is best for the long term. Where, again, we're communicative, we're collaborative, and all this kind of stuff. We get more people involved. He's not as ball dominant, and this, that, and the other. But for right now, for the here and now, until it changes otherwise, the only way we're going to win is for him to go off, go crazy, be a dominant player, be dominant with the basketball, and take control of the game. This is not going to be about, Bogey can win this again. Because look, when you get to the NBA playoffs, okay, if you're going to win a title, you've got to win 16 games in the NBA playoffs to win the championship, right? So let's take Golden State, for instance, okay? So 16 wins. How do you divide that up? Can Steph Curry win all 16 games in a playoff series? No, nobody's going to be able to win you 16 games. But can he win 12? Can he win 11 or 12 games? Yeah, he'd probably win 11 to 12 games if he has to. And then you get 1 or 2 games from a Klay Thompson. Or you get a Jordan Poole that one night just goes off or whatever like that, right? Let's take the Cavs in the old days, okay? LeBron could win you 11, maybe 12 games. Kyrie is going to win you 1 or 2 games. Kevin Love wins you a game. J.R. Smith wins you a game, right? You steal a game on your way to 16 victories for an NBA championship. Right now, the only guy who can even help Trae Young steal a game is DeJounte Murray. Not John Collins, not DeAndre Hunter. Those guys, that when they put up big numbers, we lose. We lose. Again, DeAndre Hunter, 3-5 when he scores 25 or more points the last 2 seasons and the playoffs. Regular season playoffs, 3-5. Which one do you want? 7-4, 5-10, 3-5. It's not hard math. And I understand that maybe in the long term, if we're going to win an NBA title, then there has to be a better distribution. But Trae's always going to be the most dominant player on the court. He's always going to be that alpha male for the Atlanta Hawks. And he can't do it by himself, and I understand that. But right now, as he goes, we go. It's that simple. As Trae Young goes, the Hawks go and follow. You can tell me about this guy's got a big night and this guy's got a big night. That game last night, if Trae Young doesn't do what he does, and look, this is a fun stat. So the next 2 highest field goal attempt guys for the Hawks last night were John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. They combined for 29 shots from the floor, okay? Trae had 33 by himself. In fact, if you take the next 3 highest shot attempt players, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, and Bogey, those 3 guys took 37 shots, okay? That's only 4 more than Trae Young took by himself. That's how we win. It's not healthy maybe necessarily. It's maybe not what's best for the long term. It's maybe not where we need to be and all this kind of stuff. But for right now, he has to be that kind of player. And he has to huck it up. And he has to volume shoot. And he has to volume score. And maybe he doesn't shoot all the prettiest percentages and all this kind of stuff. Hawks shot like 47% from 3 last night. He was only 5 for 13. But how do we win? We don't win because John Collins gives us a big night. We don't win because DeAndre Hunter gives us a big night. We win because Trae Young leads the way. And oftentimes that's the way it's falling on his back that he's got to take us across the finish line. Like I said, I hope that changes. I hope Murray and Collins and Hunter or whoever's here at the end of the day, that those guys become more of a complementary piece and help Trae Young out more. But we're not winning Friday. And this is why I talked about this last week, that, hey, look, Trae's going to have to go for 30 and be dominant in that game on Friday. Trae did the same thing last night. He did the same thing in the loss. Didn't matter that DeAndre Hunter went for 25 or this, that, and the other. Doesn't matter. It's all about Trae Young. And I'll agree that it's got to change at some point, just from the standpoint of you have to have more guys that contribute to victory. Not just score points, not just grab some rebounds, not just, dish out some assists. You have to have guys that impact the game. And right now, Trae Young is alone by himself. Now, I think DeJounte Murray can be a guy like that. DeJounte Murray has certainly won us plenty of basketball games through the regular season. But again, this Hawks team goes as Trae Young goes. And as long as he's riding high, then we've got a shot to beat anybody. I don't care if it's Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, whoever. If he's playing well and he's the ball dominant guy and he's getting away, taking up the volume of shots, finding a way to volume score, that's how the Hawks win for now. Maybe things will change under the Quin Snyder regime. Maybe things will be different going into next season. But for right now, we go as Trae Young goes. All right, we encourage you that once you listen to Hittin' Hard, that when you're listening through YouTube, whatever your podcast platforms are, that please leave us a comment. We call it their everyday listener. So we're looking for our everydayers to be a part of our community. So if you listen in every day, go to the comment section of your platform. that you're listening on, and leave us a note that you're an everydayer, as we like to say. You are an everyday listener. We thank you so much for being a part of this community and enjoying the ride with us here as we're now past a year and we're going into our second year, headstrong into it. So we thank you so much for always being a part of our ever-growing community. So here's what I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to do in the draft. And I've said for a few weeks now, when I did my mock draft last night, okay, I don't do it based upon what the Falcons are going to do. I don't do it based upon Terry Fontenot. I don't do it about Arthur Smith, Arthur Blank, anybody you want to associate with the Falcons organization. I do it based upon what I want to do, how I'm drafting if I'm in control of the ship, if I'm piloting the ship, okay? So what do I think the Falcons do? I think, number one, they're going after a corner. And, again, we saw Casey Hayward get cut. Yes, they have Jeff Okudah. I think they're going to go young corner first and foremost, okay? Now, look, C.J. Stroud could fall. Maybe they pick him, I talked last time on a radio show about Peter King having Bijan Robinson as the number 8 pick. They could certainly do that. If you're talking about best player available, they could certainly go that route. But I think that when you look at whether it's Devin Witherspoon, whether it's Christian Gonzalez, they'll have their pick of one of those two guys, and those guys are the consensus 2 best corners coming into the draft. And I think when all is said and done, that you're looking at, besides just Mike Hughes and Okudah, who we don't know a lot about, who we don't know whether it's Okudah because of injuries and things like that. Can he play? Can he stay healthy? That's why I think that they go corner when they pick in the 8th round, or pick at number 8 in the first round of the draft. After that, I think they're going to draft a wide receiver pretty high. And I think that it could even be a second round pick at wide receiver. If they don't draft a wide receiver in the second round, then I'm looking at a defensive linebacker or edge player, somebody like a B.J. Ojulari, Aziz's brother, right, who played at Georgia. I'm looking at somebody like that I think that the Falcons would target and find another pass rusher in the second round of the draft. And if they don't draft wide receiver in the second, I think by the third round, they're drafting a wide receiver. Like, they're not going to waste too many picks on drafting somebody other than a wide receiver. Like, they're going to draft a wide receiver pretty quickly here. Now, again, I know we have a lot of angst because they drafted pass catcher in the top 4, the top 8 the last 2 years, but I don't think they're going to monkey around and get too deep in the draft before they pick themselves a wide receiver. I think wide receiver is the play in the second or third round. Then after that, the Falcons don't, in this regime of the Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith regime, they don't draft offensive linemen all that high. They haven't invested a first-round pick in an offensive lineman. It's all been pass catcher, skill people. But I do think that when you get to the third, fourth round, that's where the Falcons will dip their toe into the offensive line sweepstakes. No matter what that is, I could see guard, I could see center, tackle, whatever that is. Jalen Mayfield was a third-round pick. So I think that when you look at this thing overall, that the middle rounds will be dedicated to your offensive linemen and your probably defensive linemen as well. You can always add one more pass rusher, one more defensive tackle, whatever, in the middle rounds of the draft, right? It's never too late to have one of those guys. I do think that they at some point take a flyer on a quarterback at the end of the draft. Now, I had Stetson Bennett in my mock and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's Stetson Bennett. I don't know if it's Jake Haener, maybe somebody like that. But I would not be surprised if they draft a young quarterback that isn't in line to pressure Desmond Ridder, but a guy that could probably be a practice squad guy, a guy that you could groom and mentor. And then in a year from now, if you don't feel confident about Desmond Ridder, could you have that guy groomed and ready to play? It would be a quarterback that probably wouldn't play a snap in the regular season. He'd see the practice squad and nothing else. He'd play the preseason, but he'd be on the practice squad for all the year. And the only other thing that I think that the Falcons would look at is a running back somewhere in the later rounds. They hit a home run with Tyler Algier. And whether you want to tell me Cordero Patterson's on his last legs, Caleb Huntley is still out there, I think that I think more than it picked number 8 in the first round. I think the Falcons, with the success that they had with Tyler Algier, they dipped their toe in those middle to late rounds and find themselves a running back that they can groom and bring into the system. And maybe that's a guy that if Tyler Algier is RB1, maybe at some point you make him RB2. So take over for Cordero Patterson at some point in that RB2 spot, and then maybe play Patterson back a little bit outside. If this really is going to be his last maybe year in the NFL, or probably certainly with the Atlanta Falcons, maybe you use him in a different role. Maybe you use him on the outside. Maybe you put him in the slot. Obviously, he's been a receiver in the past, so it wouldn't surprise me if they draft a running back in that 4th, 5th, 6th, they don't have a 6th round pick, but 4th, 5th, 7th kind of round area and groom him and see what a player like that has. Again, they hit a home run with Tyler Algier, and that was a 5th round pick. So I think that they look in that point. But I think cornerback is still the play at number 8. And if not, listen, we may all be surprised come tomorrow night and they take Bijan Robinson. And I'll be sitting here scratching my head like, okay, we've got 2 wide receivers and a tight end wide receiver and a running back, and we don't sack the corner. Okay, anyway, but we'll address all of that when we get to that point, right? We'll have that kind of frustration once we get to that point. So I think corner's the play at 8. I think wide receiver 2nd, 3rd round. I think a defensive end or tackle in the other spot. That's either if a wide receiver is picked 2nd, 3rd round, defensive end tackle. If a wide receiver is picked in the 3rd round, then edge player, defensive tackle in the 2nd. Those 2 positions will flip-flop. And then I think at some point it's a quarterback, and I think some point it's another defensive line player. Linebacker, edge player, defensive tackle, who kind of ever grades out the best of everything. So we'll see tomorrow night. It all starts tomorrow night. NFL draft. I'll have some reaction and response to whatever the Falcons do at number 8. Good, bad, or otherwise, we'll be commenting on it. And then, again, I'm going to be up in Flowery Branch on Friday night for the 2nd and 3rd round. I'm going to be broadcasting from their new Ticketmaster studios up there. So I'll have firsthand coverage of what's going on out there. So we'll see what happens, but it should be a fascinating weekend as we get ready for another NFL draft. And hopefully we find that defensive edge player that we've all been longing for. All right, well, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen. Make sure when you listen into Hittin' Hard that you go in the comment section, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast from, and leave us a message that you are an everyday listener. We call them our everydayers, and we thank you so much for being a part of our community. Thanks for being a part of our audience, and especially thanks for being a part of this audience every single day that we are on air. So we appreciate it greatly. I ask you to follow me on my Twitter page at JMCH316. And of course, you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube and listen to wherever you find your podcast from. Get the latest episodes of Hittin' Hard as soon as they become available. We'll talk to you tomorrow night as we get ready for the NFL draft. Jon Chuckery, Hittin' Hard, Locked on Sports Atlanta.